2024 में आईएएस बनना चाहते हो? तैयारी स्टार्ट कर दी है, लेकिन पहले ये तो बताओ कि आप यूपीएससी वर्दी हो भी कि नहीं। प्रिपरेशन सही डायरेक्शन में चल रही है कि नहीं चल रही है, ये कैसे पता लगेगा? भाई सबका तो चाचा मामा पापा आईएएस आईपीएस तो होते नहीं है। तो ऑल इंडिया स्मैश स्कॉलरशिप टेस्ट फॉर 2024 अटेम्प्ट करो। आपको अप टू 100% स्कॉलरशिप मिल सकती है हमारे मेंटरशिप प्रोग्राम में। लेकिन उससे भी ज्यादा बड़ी बात, रजिस्टर करते ही आपको 10,000 का माल, 10,000 का स्टडी मटेरियल, लेक्चर और इसके साथ हमारे रैंकर के साथ एक 1-to-1 सेशन जहां आप अपनी प्रॉब्लम, अपनी स्ट्रेटजी डिस्कस कर सकते हैं, ये सब मिलेगा। तो दिए हुए लिंक पे रजिस्टर करिए तुरंत।
Hello everyone, my name is Abhishek Vyas and I have secured rank 629 in this year's UPSC Civil Service Examination. I come from Ghaziabad, which is a district in Uttar Pradesh, and I have been preparing for this examination for last 3.5 years. I have given 3 attempts and this was my 3rd attempt. In the first, my journey has been so far like in the first attempt, I had reached till interview stage, and in second attempt I actually couldn't clear mains itself. But in the third attempt, I am happy that I could clear all the 3 stages and I have now secured rank 629 this year. So, to go further with my journey of this examination, in the first 2 attempts I gave along with my private sector job, and after that for third attempt I had left it and then resigned from the job and then prepared wholly for this examination. So this was my journey. In terms of this video, I will be talking about the strategy basically from improving the marks by 100 marks in the GS papers, which is the 4 GS papers. I have improved my marks by 100. So that is why I'll be talking about that, what changes did I do in terms of my preparation, which actually helped me in gaining that leverage from second attempt to third attempt. So yes, the main change that I did this year was more focused towards preparing my own notes for all the GS subjects and also focusing upon the answer writing process. So if I talk about my strategy for GS1, if I talk about, then for geography I made sure that I am making maps and diagrams in almost every question that I asked in this examination. If I talk about history, then also I have focused on the basics from the NCERTs itself, and I try to gain the whole perspective of the different ancient, medieval and modern history, and then accordingly I modified my answers in the examination also. In terms of society, I had referred to Smriti Shah's ma'am's notes from Vision IAS, so which I had got from Telegram, and those were pretty handy in terms of gaining overall knowledge about society as a subject and also putting in different dimensions from that perspective. For example, in the examination, if the question is about secularism, then we need to have the exact definition that what Indian secularism is about and how is it different from the secularism as a concept in different countries other than India. So all these different definitions and all the concepts were actually pretty clear after going through the Vision IAS notes from Smriti Shah ma'am. So this was my GS1 strategy. So for GS2 for polity, from the polity perspective, I actually relied on my own notes which I had made from the newspapers along the last 1.5 year, and also along with that I also took help from the Rushikesh Reddy sir's notes which are available on internet. So these were the 2 main sources that I covered from the polity perspective. From polity, I would say that more than the syllabus and the actual sources that you are covering, more important is to how you are trying to attempt the question from the whole perspective, like answering every perspective of the questions that is asked, and also from the governance perspective. Again, it is very important to go through Niti Ayog's your 7 years agenda and all the different reports that come from it. Along with that, for governance, we can also go towards and make our own notes in terms of the different governance perspectives that the government is trying to introduce these days. For example, e-governance modules that the government is introducing, Also, make sure that in all these questions you are also using the reports that have been given in that have been introduced in the past. For example, ARC report is there. Then different kinds of reports you are can quote in the examination. So more than what you are reading, it's more important that what you are actually being able to implement is in the examination in terms of giving different examples, different constitutional articles if you are putting in. That becomes very important. For international relations, if we talk about, then again I relied on my notes which I had sourced from the newspapers. So from there, if we are reading newspaper for the last 1 year, we will be able to exactly know that what issues are important in terms of international relations, and we would need to have a whole 360-degree knowledge about that particular event. So and I would not recommend here relying upon the current affair magazines that we get from different institutes, because that will not be sufficient to gain the overall perspective of a particular issue. Only when you are reading editorials from the different newspapers, then only you can get the perspective of the advantage of certain event that is happening, and also disadvantage, and how a particular event is important for India and India's relations with the other countries. And that is what matters from the examination perspective also, because UPSC currently is not going into the details of the event, but asking about that how that particular event affects India and its relations with the other countries, neighboring countries, or it can be the relations with the US and the Russia. So all these issues become important. Social justice, again, it was Smriti Shah's notes, Smriti Shah ma'am's notes that I referred. So again, that was pretty sufficient for covering social justice part of it. Now, from the GS4 perspective, I had referred to different sources from different institutes. For example, I had referred to the vision value added materials for ethics, and also I had referred to the Red book by Forum IAS. So I had prepared my own notes from these two sources. And from ethics, what becomes important is that there are two components to it. One is your the basic questions, and the other is the case studies. So for the basic questions in the examination, what is important is that if there is any question asked in the examination on aptitude, attitude, or different kinds of like emotional intelligence, then you need to have the exact definition on your in your mind that you can replicate in the answer paper as well. That becomes very important for the introduction part. And also make sure that because ethics paper, what happens is that there are in the question itself there can be different dimensions. So make sure that you are addressing to all the different dimensions asked in the question holistically. Second part of the ethics is about the case studies. So I made sure that I have solved the previous year questions, case studies, the case studies from the previous year question papers, and tried to answer the question from different dimensions, and also putting a lot of examples from my own life, or quoting any thinker in that particular case study if applicable. Don't overdo it, but if there is an opportunity, make sure that you are trying to leverage that opportunity and putting in your knowledge of the basic concepts of ethics that you have gained. Also, for ethics, what is very important is the time management, because ethics case studies can take a long time. So what we need to make sure that we are distributing the equivalent time to both the case studies and the questions that are asked. So that becomes very important, and for that we need to do a lot of practice beforehand, even before going to the main examination hall. So this was about the sources that I referred for different GS subjects. But if I talk about that what really made the difference from last year to this year, which helped me gain about 100 marks in GS 4 papers of GS, I would say one is definitely that I have been reading newspapers for like last 1.5 years, and I've been very consistent with the note making process. So what I do is I made a Google Doc, and I keep updating it. Google Doc with taking the main syllabus, I make a Google Doc, and accordingly I keep on supplementing information in the different headings of that syllabus. So for example, if there is let's say there is a international relations news that I have just read. So what I do is I take the essence of that particular news and put it in that particular doc. So at the end of the 1.5 year, I was having around 400 to 450 pages of that doc. It might seem that it was a bit huge document to read, but definitely but when you are have put your own efforts in that particular creating that document, then it becomes easier for you to revise that again and again. And believe me, it helps a lot in exam, because you have to recall all the knowledge that you have gained over the last many years in those 7 minutes of a particular question that you are trying to attempt. So over there it becomes very important that if you are able to recall the knowledge that you have gained, and that will happen only when these are your own notes and when you have revised them again and again. Second thing I would say is that I had referred in this attempt to a lot of toppers copies from different coaching institutes. I sat and tried to analyze that what are the different perspectives where I'm lacking. For example, I realized that geography has about 100 to 110 marks in GS1, and I was not actually initially focusing upon making diagrams, making maps in that particular paper. But when I saw the toppers copies, I realized that this is the bare minimum that we have to do with geography, that with every question that is being asked, we have to try to put in more maps, more diagrams to make our answer more enriching. Yes, so that is very important that I realized. Also, what is the next most important thing is answer writing. So in the initial 2 attempts, I had written only about 5-6 papers before the mains examination, but this time I would have attempted around 620 or about 16-20 papers that I attempted for different subjects. So that really helped me in terms of preparing myself for the actual battle, which is the mains examination. So I would recommend that with every paper that you are attempting, try to see that what challenges that you faced in that particular paper. Was it that you had less amount of time in attempting that paper, or the second problem can be that you didn't have enough knowledge about any of the topic that was asked in the mock test papers, and third can be that you had the knowledge but you were not able to apply that knowledge in that particular time frame. So all these things are different problems and require different solutions also. So for example, if there is a time issue, then you need to pick up you need to revise again and again, so that you don't have to think much when you are attempting the answer in the examination hall. If the problem is that you are not able to, you don't have enough knowledge about the subject, then go back and read again from that about that topic from a different sources. And if the problem is that you have that knowledge but you are not able to recall, then again revision matters, and that will help you in writing a good answer in the exam. Also, the fourth thing that I did this time was timing my answers to the mock papers. So what I used to do is that I used to keep a timer with myself, and whenever I had started a question, I used to switch on the timer, and whenever I used to end, I stopped the timer. So I used to check that how many minutes I'm taking in writing a particular answer. So I saw that initially I was taking about 8 to 10 minutes for even a 10 marker question, which is a lot higher than what is actually allotted to that particular answer, which is like 7 minutes. So initially that will happen. You will see that you are taking 11 minutes or 12 minutes to answer even a 10 marker question where you should have taken just 7 minutes. But gradually, if you see that it will eventually improve with 5, 6, 7 papers, you will realize that your speed is improving, and again, because you are timing that again and you are evaluating that, you will be able to improve on that gradually. And that is very important, because in the exam you get only about 7 minutes for 10 marker question and about 10 to 11 minutes for your 15 marker question. So you need to work much on your speed and your recall. Also, a general advice for all the people writing mains is that whenever you are covering any topic of the syllabus, what you do is cover it breadth wise and then go depth wise. So what I mean by that is, for example, if you are covering your main syllabus for the first time, what you can do is first cover the NCERTs of the different subjects. For example, NCERTs of geography can be there. For polity, it can be the basic source can be Lakshmikant. Then for other different subjects, you can have your own different basic sources. So I would say that when you are reading from the first go, cover your basic sources first for all the different subjects. Once you have covered that, then you try to go into the depth of it. For example, in history, if you have for example, for all the subjects, if you have read the basic books, for example, polity, Lakshmikant, then history, NCERTs, then once you have done that, then go into the depth of it. For history, you can read then different books from like Plastics to Partition, you can read. For similarly for international relations, once you have covered the basic source, which is the newspaper, then you can go about finding different coaching institutes materials and then supplementing the information. But don't go depth wise into it first. First go breadth wise, then go depth wise. So for GS3, I would say there is no single material that one can refer to complete even the economy part of it. So for prelims, I used to refer to Mrinal. And for the mains perspective, because syllabus is so diverse that we actually need to Google many topics from the internet and try to find our own knowledge about those subjects, topics. And along with that, we also need to supplement that with the current information, because in GS3, what is being asked is the current or the contemporary, which is about 1.5 to 2 years kind of news. So those are being asked, and we need to be prepared with that by supplementing the subjects and the topics with our own research from newspapers and different magazines that we read. And here what becomes more important is reading the syllabus very thoroughly, because we see that here we have a very diverse kind of topics like land reform, then we have food processing and related industries. Now for food processing, you would have a basic knowledge about that, but for that you would also need to Google that is there any scheme that is related to food processing that Government of India has introduced. Similarly with land reforms, we need to see that if there is any particular scheme. For example, there was a scheme about digitizing the land records. That was one of the scheme. So UPSC will never ask you about these exact schemes, but if you know about all these different initiatives by the government, you can actually code them in your answer and make your answer look better. And which is very important from the perspective that there is a lot of competition in mains currently, and we need to see that how we can differentiate our answer from answers of others. Then from science and technology, there is no single resource that one can refer to. I would recommend that go through the answers of the coaching institutes, the mocks that they give, and try to answer them in your from the knowledge that you already have. And if you see that you are lacking knowledge in science and tech, then again you can refer to different, for example, you can refer to NCERT or maybe different materials from coaching institutes, but there is no single book that I would recommend for covering science and tech part. Then again, internal security, what I did was I didn't refer to any of the books for that perspective. I just made sure that I know about the different issues with respect to internal security, be it happening now or maybe from the independence to now, whatever the internal security challenges that India is facing. I just kept track of it by going through the internet and then trying to gain knowledge of that, and again with supplementing that with the current improvements that the government is trying to do with respect to the internal security challenges. For example, removal of AFSPA can be one example. So again, in all these subjects that I am all the subjects, be it GS 1, 2, 3, 4, what is more important is that how much you can supplement your answer with your knowledge about the different schemes of the government or any new event that is happening in that particular topic. So that is what to be kept in mind while writing any answer. So that was about my strategy in terms of how I was able to score improve my marks from second attempt to third attempt by 100. And so it was a strategy which one can follow if one has time. For example, we have about 1 year till next means now 2023. So we can follow this strategy because it requires a lot of effort in terms of preparing your own notes from newspapers, going through it and revising again and again. So that becomes a very lengthy process, but also, believe me, very very rewarding also for all the different stages, not just mains but also from the interview. If you are appearing for the interview, then also your reading newspaper and your knowledge becomes very important from that perspective. That is it, and I want to thank Delhi Knowledge Track for giving me this opportunity to interact with all of you. And if you have any questions for me, you can put in the comment section and I'll try to answer to all of them. I'll try to answer all of them for sure. Thank you.